and we got Aaron Kuhn. These guys, Journey to the Truth, amazing work, especially secret space programs, non-terrestrial activity, all this great stuff that they've been amassing in their research and their shows. It's great to have Tyler and Aaron back. This is going to be a fun show because we're diving deep into the ET world hybrids. And I have to say this, guys, nothing's more indicative of where we're going in this entire space than Jesse Waters coming out on Fox News and saying apparently there are four different types of ETs on the planet: Greys, Nordics, Dracos, or reptilians. I guess we'd refer to them as reptilians, and arachnids, or ant people. And I thought, holy Mary, Mother of God, it is on. Here we go. So nobody better to have on tonight's show. Go back for another visit. Aaron, Tyler, great to have both of you back on this show tonight.
Yeah, great to be back. Thank you so much for having us again.
Yeah, and my last name is Koala, like the bear, Koala Bear.
Oh, you know what? Now I get it, because every time I look at that, if I don't have my readers on, I see an A or an I at the end, not an L. Now I can see it.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
yeah,
Koala.
you got it though.
All right. Well, listen, guys. I don't even know where to begin on this subject because it runs on a massive spectrum. Let's just throw right in here. Why all of a sudden is all of this stuff that you guys have been learning over the years, secret space program stuff, the things we've been digging into, why all of a sudden is it relevant right now? Why is the government and Trump pushing on disclosure? And I mean, you guys saw the video of Trump walking with a tall gray. It's got, shackles on its arms and it's got its leg chains on. I mean, that, I assume that is, I'm not going to assume, I don't even know what that is. Is that real? Is that real? Do you think that's a real tall gray that they have, or was that AI?
Yeah, I think that was AI, but I think it's a message,
I think it represents something real, but yeah, even if it was
right?
AI made,
Right.
absolutely.
But there's, it's interesting. They're strategically doing everything. There's no accident. You know, everything has a reason. They don't haphazardly just post this. They know how the people are going to respond, or if they don't know, a lot of the stuff they're putting out there engaging our reaction. They're going to see where we're at, and they really want to understand how the collective is going to respond when they see something that pushes the boundaries of their belief system. That's why they're approaching the pastors in the way they're doing, because obviously it is a paradigm shift for a lot of people, and there's going to be some resistance. I think, it's a major thing. And why now, you asked? And I think that could be a number of reasons. We can only speculate. It seems, if, we've interviewed a lot of people over the years, a lot of whistleblowers. It seems that 2027, there's been something planned for quite some time. And a lot of insiders have gotten some intel surrounding an event dealing with extraterrestrials that could potentially be happening in 2027. Whatever that is, I don't know. I've also heard other gentlemen discuss treaties that have been signed. Like, it's so this isn't just like aliens are here, we don't really know who they are, but they're real. It's the opposite. They know exactly who they are, and they've been working with them down to the point of signing treaties with them. And whatever that treaty entails, we understand what happened during the Eisenhower era, where allegedly a treaty was signed. Basically humans in exchange for technology. You can abduct X amount of humans per year, and we'll give you this advanced technology to help move you guys along. That's just one example of a treaty, but there's been a number of them, and potentially we're at the end of one of these treaties right now. And if we don't, if we, meaning humans, the military industrial complex, the government, if they don't disclose the extraterrestrials, they'll do it themselves. And if they do it themselves, that's something that the government can't control, and they don't like what they can't control. So they're trying to get ahead of the story and releasing this stuff and trying to control that narrative. So when stuff does start surfacing, for one, it helps people kind of ease them into it, but two, it helps them maintain control of what people are believing about this. And it's all an attempt really to cover up their own crimes against humanity, which is what this boils down to.
Yeah, it's obviously a slow walk. I don't know if we talked about this last time, but you got the On Planet Alliance going up against these cabal powers for a long time, and And then you have the off-planet alliance and these secret space programs, ones that broke, guys that broke away, and obviously knew they were involved in really bad shit happening, especially the Dark Fleet Air Force's offensive program, working with the Dracos, taking over planets and horrible stuff. And guys in the program, some got in there in different ways that they didn't realize what they were into, and it evolves over time, Emery Smith when they first brought him into the program in the Air Force, and you know how they just brought him along as a technician analyzing blood samples, tissue samples, comes through like a prison, like if you're in a prison cell in solitary, and they open the little door, they slide your food in, where they'd slide in tissue, he'd analyze it, do the report. Before you know, it's a finger, it's not human. See how he handles that shock, does his job. Next thing you know, it's a freaking arm that's not human, and it goes down that track, according to his time in the programs. So off planet, they believe we should dump everything right on humanity because they can handle it. I was all for that too. They're, on Planet Alliance talking 20 to 50 year rollout. I'm like, yeah, bullshit. There's too many people that we're going to lose that should have this experience here. Drop it on their heads. Now I have a different viewpoint. I like the track they're going on right now. It's speeding up, but it's laying the groundwork, the foundation for people to acquiesce mentally, psychologically to what's coming. Aaron, I want to throw this at you. This is what I shot it over to Tyler today on how we were going to talk about this. And I'm going to read it to you. It says, you mentioned you wanted to dive into ETs. We can discuss the 4 aliens that are being recognized now as legitimate. It would be cool to help people understand how this is all about bloodlines and how companies like 23andMe, which I've warned you guys about, never give up your DNA, and how companies like 23andMe are looking for genetic markers and tracking alien, Luciferian, and Christ bloodlines. Yes, there is a Christ bloodline. They lied to you about Mary Magdalene. Anyways, how this ties into the alleged hybrid program that's finally being taken seriously and really focus on the human-looking ETs that would pass us in any public setting, and why I believe they're lining things up for them to be the first to be revealed to humanity. And then once belief in aliens reaches critical mass, they could enter our reality permanently. Now, they are walking amongst us. I've been accused of that myself. People look at my ears that look like they're of an elf, and I'm like, they kind of do. They think I'm an ET. I'm like, nah, pretty much proven. I can't elevate myself any higher than I can here in a human form. So not one of them. Anyways, let's jump into this, Aaron. This whole tracking of bloodlines and 23andMe and all these genetic companies that they lure you in. Let's look at your whole family tree, right? Trace your history back. We know that's bullshit. They want your DNA.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's a huge rabbit hole, and that's a huge aspect of what's going on. Is you have the cabal, as we call them, the umbrella kind of catch-all term for these nefarious groups that have been controlling things in the background, and they have always been actually obsessed with genetics and with DNA and with their bloodlines, and that's why they work so hard to keep their bloodlines pure, and are very protective of that, because they actually believe they aren't human. They believe they are a completely different species, essentially, than us, and they have. And they do. A lot of them do. They have these different ET genetics. All humans have. We supposedly all have 22 at least different ET genetics that make us up within us. But they have a lot more of like certain reptilian or certain other what we would call negative ET races than we do. And that, in my opinion, from my research, allows. They are way more connected to those races, and allows certain types of souls to kind of connect or even incarnate into those bodies, right? And David Icke talks all about this as well. Many people talk about this. And on top of that, they are also obsessed with, just like the Nazis were, and many groups are, that it's obvious, where they're obsessed with finding and creating these certain genetic these genetics and like the Aryan race and all that kind of stuff. It's like a Luciferian bloodline that they're obsessed with, and they want to find it in as many people as possible so that they can, use that basically. And that's what 23andMe was really about. Was about devising a way for us to willingly give up our DNA to them, so that they don't have to coerce it. We'll just do it, on our own. And yeah, and then they can do whatever they want.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Aaron, let me jump in real quick. So just to give some validity to what Aaron just said, a gentleman we know, and I'm not going to say his name here just because I don't know how much he actually wants his name tied to this. But he's a very credible man, and some people might know who he is if they watch our show. But I was at a conference with him a few years ago, and we were having a conversation at his booth, and he started telling me about how his brother was involved in 23andMe and what that was all about. And I was texting him the other day once the news came out about how the CIA was tracking our bloodlines, or hunting down alien bloodlines using 23andMe and Ancestry.com and stuff like that. This is an exact quote, text conversation. I asked him to, hey, can you remind me what you told me a few years ago? He said, it was my brother who was involved as chairman of physiology at Johns Hopkins. They created the program, talking about 23andMe, they created the program and sought funding from Congress to gather DNA in search for certain markers. They were denied funding, so they commercialized it as 23andMe to see if people would pay them and send in their DNA. They were blown away at the response. So that's a massive statement. They couldn't get congressional funding, so they commercialized it as 23andMe to see if people would not only send in their DNA, but pay them to do it. And they were blown away by that response. He says, I think they were searching for the Lucifer genes scattered and diluted to unknown carriers of the earth. They wanted to find the carriers. That's a direct quote from him, and his brother was chairman of physiology at Johns Hopkins and was directly involved. So he knows for a matter of fact that it was always designed to track genetic markers. Now, his opinion is that it was to track Luciferian genes, but there's also the Christ bloodline that they're probably interested in seeing who's carrying that DNA, as well as other extraterrestrial and DNA and lineages and stuff. So there's a number of things happening there, and I'm sure they have ways that they could do it without us sending them our DNA samples. But like Aaron said, they devised a way for us to willingly do it, so they don't have to coerce us into do it. And then we know the archonic energy, the archons, the reptilians, whatever. It's all trickster energy. It's all deception.
It's also a karmic reason too. So like, if we willingly do something, that's way less karma on them than if they have to manipulate and force us into doing something, right? So they're always trying to do stuff like that, like social media, like Facebook. Like, oh, we'll just create something they willingly go on, and we get all their data and all their stuff instead of having to do it these other more forcing ways. Same thing.
Right. Yeah.
Since we're talking about this for a second, again, I'm always working on shattering this particular grip. We've heard about the Christ bloodline. Most would say there's no Christ bloodline. He didn't have any children, right? And we know that there is a Christ bloodline. What are your comments on that?
Aaron can take that one.
Yeah, that's a controversial one, right? that's a very controversial one, but yeah, in my opinion, that's very true. I've done research on this, and in my opinion, he did not actually die on that cross like we're supposed to believe, or is very commonly believed. He actually lived on. Mary Magdalene actually was his wife. They had children, and that is the Christ bloodline that comes from there, right? And there's some people that say he actually we just have Tyler and I have some friends that were just in India, and there's a place there that they say is his grave, where he lived the rest of his life and died in India. Actually, there's also one in Japan. They claim he died there too. So, which is true, I don't know, but I tend to lean more towards India if it's one of those. I know he spent time in India during the missing years, and in Egypt and in Tibet, and learned all these things that they called New Age or satanic by many Christians. It's ironic that Jesus himself practiced those things and taught those things even, and now they get called satanic or whatever. But yeah, in my opinion, Mary Magdalene got completely inverted, of course, by the system, along with a lot of other things, right? So she got called a prostitute and all this kind of stuff, when in fact she was the exact opposite of that. She was his wife. She was extremely revered by Jesus, and she kind of represented the divine feminine, in a lot of ways, just kind of like Mother Mary did as well. And yeah, there is a Christ bloodline, and that is another thing they want to track down, of course, right?
Wipe it out.
They want to wipe it out, exactly, because it's a huge threat, right?
And
and not to say people are more special than anyone else that has that bloodline. We're not putting people on pedestals here. That's not what this is about. But there's still something there, and it is a unique thing that, in my opinion, maybe there's something about that is a huge threat to them, which would make sense, right? And they want to wipe it out, and they want to whatever this Luciferian bloodline is. There's a lot of evidence that points to they actually believe Lucifer was a real being, like an extraterrestrial type godlike being, and they kind of worship this being, and they're obsessed with those genetics that they think comes from this being, essentially. And they're essentially a Luciferian cult. So they want to find those genetics to preserve them and to use them in different ways. And then they want to wipe out any genetics they think are a threat to them and their control, right? To put it simply.
yeah,
What's interesting is this is just recent, getting back to the Christ bloodline. Again, the issue I take with Christians, again, I'm one of those people, but the issue I take again with Christians is that if you say anything that they've been programmed to believe, they flip out. I mean, put something on Facebook, watch them flip out.
Yeah.
And especially in this time when we've seen that everything that has ever been taught to us is a lie on one level or another. I don't care if it's math, physics, history, certainly. You name biology, you name it. They've lied about everything.
Right.
And so if it's not true, okay, why would you be flipping out? Because somebody believes that's like being a Muslim. It's no different than the Muslim problem we have. We believe something different, a different version. They want to kill you, right? Christians, not all of them, but there are those who you say something that's different than what they've been programmed to believe. They either move away from you, ostracize you, attack you, whatever. And it's such an absurdity to me, and that's why I keep bringing it up over and over. You got to break the dream spell. Modi, the president of India, just came out in the last couple of weeks and said Christ lived and died in India. He said it to the world, right?
There you go.
Now that you're talking about basically an economic superpower, maybe not to the point where you think it is, but it's going to be, because they have 600 million people under the age of 25 years old. Their greatest export in the world in the future is human capital. 1/3 of everybody goes through any type of medical training in the U.S. is from India. So anyways, why would a guy of that stature say that? And in fact, in that conversation, he said, yeah, I guess they put Christ on the cross. We all believe that. But it was Joseph that went and asked Pontius Pilate, can you just let us bring him down? And they did, and they took him and, cared for him. He got better. And then, for whatever time, and then he went back to India. Now, again, that's what they're saying. Don't shoot the messenger. But I have to say to myself, I wonder if that's true. For some reason, all of my life, and I don't know why this is, since I was young, when somebody would tell me something that is maybe not true or a little bit out there or whatever, it's never been in my soul to attack and say, that's bullshit. I just don't have that. I watch society be that way. I'm always like, really? No kidding. Maybe I'm gullible. But for some reason, my mind or soul has always stayed open to possibilities. Like, wonder if that's true, man. If it is, that's amazing or crazy or whatever. I don't get vested in a narrative. I don't die on any hill.
Right.
I was like, no kidding. Tell me more. Right. And I don't know why people are like that, but we've got to smash through that. There's a lot of great work that Negative 48 did on the Christ bloodline. And actually many people believe it wasn't even the real, whoever negative 48 was, that it was Junior. And that's kind of hard to walk away from that because I've had phone calls on the phone, and you can't convince me otherwise. Many, many, many hours on the phone. And I'm like, yeah, this is ain't the guy I met in public. It sounds like Junior's voice 1,000%. But that being said, who knows? I don't run around saying that, or I don't say that's crazy, and not on a phone call with me. Many, many
Right.
hours. So, anyways, that being said, I just want to touch on that for a second. Jumping back to that subject matter, the idea of the bloodlines, very interesting. What How do you believe there's a hybrid program? Like somebody said to me, she said to me, and she goes, I believe Trump's a hybrid, right?
It
Right.
could be.
It could be a hybrid, okay? And that
Well,
means extension, longevity, energy, whatever. What's your comment on that?
well, we have to. I mean, you have to go back into UFO lore and look at a lot of the testimonies of the abductees and listen to their stories. If there's any truth, to even 1% of them, all of them have been taken for their genetics or their sperm or whatever the case is. There's a hybrid program where women experience a pregnancy and then one day they're no longer pregnant and the fetus has been removed or whatever the case is. It can be disguised as a miscarriage a lot of times as well. And there's a lot of testimonies to support that. It's hard to believe, but there are a lot of people talking about that. Now, fast forward to today, just to give an example people can grab onto. Lou Elizondo was just on, what's her name? That Jill Richards, or what I forgot her name is.
Jillian Michaels.
Michaels, yeah,
Yeah.
Jillian Michaels. He was just, on her show, and she was asking about this alleged hybrid program, and he just matter of factly said, he didn't know directly because he hadn't seen it, but he has spoken to very credible men within the military industrial complex that have matter of factly said, yes, that is the case, that is happening. And there's just a number, there's just story after story after story. And they're creating the hybrids. Why? For one, there's so many different ways we can branch off here. But DNA is like a currency. DNA is a currency for these people, and maybe that's why they're also tracking down these bloodlines because that Christ bloodline might be of high value somewhere in the galaxy. The movie Jupiter Ascending kind of gives us a hint of what that would look like. It could be also they could be depicting adrenochrome as well, which is still a currency, and we understand what that whole network looks like here, and it's not pretty. So there's an interest in this stuff, not just for financial gain, but it's a lifeline for some of these people. Certain DNA is, and some of these races allegedly have cloned themselves out of existence, meaning that their bloodline essentially has an expiration date because they have gotten so disconnected from source they can no longer reproduce. So they're interested in our blood to try and tinker with their DNA so they can continue to reproduce and literally preserve their race. And there's a number of ways we can take this, but going back to the Christ bloodline, there was a whistleblower. I don't remember who. It was years ago in the '90s. I have a little short clip of him on Instagram. He was asked in an interview. I think it was an Army whistleblower, and he saw some stuff while he was in the military that just shocked him. Down to his core, he was appalled by what he had seen. And the interview, the interviewer asked him, "What did you witness?" And he said, they're trying to destroy all evidence of God because that's their MO. That's exactly what they're doing. And what that would look like is destroying our history, covering up our history, by resetting it in the whole Tartarian thing, but also tracking down that bloodline and, like you said earlier, eliminating that any evidence of God, so they can push this transhumanism agenda, which is effectively still an extraterrestrial a type of extraterrestrial, because once, in fact, it's in the verbiage of one of the recent jabs. Once you receive that, you're no longer technically on paper considered a human because it's changing your DNA. It's changing your genetics so much so that it won't appear the same as a normal human that has not received that, and they can be categorized in as non-human at that point, and hence the transhumanist agenda. So it all ties together. People understand, they ask, well, why don't we get the Epstein files before they give us alien disclosure? Well, in my opinion, I think that at the bottom of the Epstein files, we're going to find stuff like what we're discussing today that deals with extraterrestrials and these genetic experiments. I mean, we already got glimpses of that. So it's like there's an order of operations here. The public has to understand that extraterrestrials are real. They've been
Not all
involved with
demon. They're not all demons. There's
they're
something.
not all demons. They've
Yeah.
been involved with our military in some capacity for at least 70 years. And, that has to become normalized. And then you start releasing the deeper layers of these files which get into this stuff that would have been so outside of somebody's belief system prior to alien disclosure. But now the aliens are legitimate and they're being recognized as such by all the credible people in the world. Then they're going to believe what they see at the bottom of those files. So it's an order of operations. It's not pretty, and I don't think they have a real plan because there's a lot of warring factions even within those, governments and agencies and all that stuff. So it's very convoluted.
Yeah, that swamp is so deep. People just simply do not understand it. This Leviathan has, a billion tentacles to it, and to try to get to it just takes time to get to it. I had a question in particular that I wanted to ask you, Aaron. It had to do with crap. It's not coming to me right now. Just jump in there off
I was
of.
gonna say I could just pick up where Tyler.
Yeah, I knew you could do that.
Yeah. I mean, there's so much. There's so much we could talk about here, as you know.
Oh,
But yeah,
the point, come on the back end of it. The point being, with the interaction that the military has had, do we have benevolent ETs working with the military
yeah,
and the good military, the alliance powers, and malevolent, rogue, Draco, reptilian type working with the bad guys in rogue aspects of the military and CIA, right? Still happening.
yes, yes, and yes,
Okay.
in my opinion. Um, yeah. So again, this is a huge topic, but to simplify it as much as possible while still hitting the important points. The negative extraterrestrials. There are multiple negative races. The main one that seems to be the biggest problem, or in control of the hierarchy, is the Draco reptilians, and they've been here for a long time, controlling things. It seems to be, from my research, even as far back as Atlantis times, and that's a whole other topic, So going back thousands of years into the time that we're taught that is before any kind of you know modern
Advanced life. Yeah.
advanced modern day civilization at all, right? But in fact, that's a lie, and it seems to be the exact opposite of that. They were actually way more advanced at that point, and there seemed to have been an infiltration somewhere in those days of these negative ETs, these Draco reptilians, and then the downfall of Atlantis eventually happened, probably because of that. But then they stayed in control. That when civilization started rebuilding up, guess who was in control? They were, and their little proxies and minions, right? And that's the whole bloodline. So the bloodlines that are more connected to them are the ones that were seated in power everywhere on the planet. And so the invasion happened a long time ago, right? So if anyone's worried about a negative ET invasion, well, guess what? You're too late. It happened many thousands of years ago already. So now the question is not, is an invasion going to happen? It already happened. It's we got to clean things up now after that, for the first time since then, right? And that's what's happening now, and that's why it's such a big deal, because I mean, they've been in power for thousands of years. This is not going to happen overnight, right? That's why it seems to be taking so long, because guess what? It's that big of a deal. It's going to take some time. I do think it's in our lifetimes. The three of us here, I think we're going to see the real other side, though, of that. But yeah, we're in the middle of it right now, and I do think there are what we would call benevolent ETs that are here. They've also been around for a long time as well, but it's almost like at this point in history, at this point in time, they're allowed to help more overtly, and I think there's multiple reasons for that. Number one, in the past, we didn't really have a framework for aliens or ETs or technology or these kind of things. Like, and in my opinion, this is where all of our religions, like, you can see what looking at it from the eyes of this kind of topic, you can see where, oh, these things that get called angels or gods or divine beings, those were just extraterrestrials. And maybe some of them were at a higher dimension, and could like kind of phase into our dimension, but still they're not there's different terms that get used. So like everything gets interpreted through the understanding of the people at the time, right? And now we're at a point in time where we can understand, just like, who is it, the former Israeli defense minister Haim Eshed, he said, oh yeah, there's Galactic Federation and Trump knows about it. And they were waiting until this point in time in history when humanity would know what space and spaceships are and this kind of stuff for them to reveal themselves. Well, guess what's happening now? We can see it in real time. They're revealing themselves and disclosure is happening, whether governments like it or not, whether the cabal likes it or not. It's like they all know there's something coming and they have to get ahead of it, right? Both the good guys and the bad guys. And you see these two main agendas going on where the white hats are the good guys, or the people that are more for humanity want disclosure to happen, but they want it to happen in a way that is beneficial to humanity and frees humanity and allows humanity to thrive and connect to these beings in a positive way. The cabal wants it to happen on their terms in a way that enslaves humanity and does the opposite of that, right?
Protects them
And keeps them fully in control. So you have these two, and you have the benevolent ETs that are, in my opinion, connected to the white hats and to Trump and are working with him, in my opinion, and are doing everything they can to help, but they do not interfere with free will at the same time. They highly, highly respect free will, and that's like a universal law. Well, the negative obviously doesn't care about that, because that's how the negative operates. They're always interfering with free will, but they also have to work within universal law to some degree, otherwise they wouldn't be able to do anything, right? And that's why they always have to play these games. And because then it's like, well, why didn't they just take over a long time ago and enslave us a long time ago fully? We wouldn't be having this conversation right now, right? Well, they couldn't, because there are rules, there are universal laws, and it's like they still have to play within, you could say, God's rules, right? They have to still operate within that. So guess what that means? Ultimately, the game is they have to trick us into giving our power away to them. Put it very simply. That's the whole game. So the second we wake up to the game, it's game over, because we stop giving our power away. We stop playing by their rules. We stop being manipulated once you see the tricks, once you see what's really happening. And that's what they're terrified about. So they're trying to lock things down right now, because they know it's game over if they don't lock things down right now. And that's why there's so much chaos right now. But the great thing is that the awakening's already in full swing. Like, that snowball's rolling downhill and you're not going to stop it, right? So the more and the harder they push, the more people wake up, and the faster their system crumbles, and we're able to take our power back and create a new system that actually benefits us. So in my opinion, the ETs are kind of like cheering us on in this. They're helping us to take our power back, because the last thing they want is to come and save us and then we start worshiping them or making them our gods or giving our power away to them. That would be extremely detrimental, right? That's not what they want. So that's another reason why they can't just swoop in and clean up everything all at once and save us, and then we wouldn't learn the lessons we need to learn as well, right?
It's an interesting point, is exactly that. And what I've heard was that 2 or 3 times in the evolution of the human species, they tried to come into our realm and help clean up the mess. But each and every time, we turn it into a religion or a cult.
Yep.
And I understand also that as our DNA has been engineered over time, which we are the direct result of 22 different genetic experiments, which is what makes us special because of all these attributes. That's why these non-terrestrials look at us as genetic royalty.
Absolutely.
Which people should understand how special they really are. But it's no different than what I've been saying here, the Great Awakening is people. This isn't about wiping the threat off the planet. This is all about spiritual ascension. They can't do that for us. They can't. And just like you said, same thing. Benevolent ETs, non-terrestrials. Number one, they have to follow the treaties and those the rules. That they can't come down and interfere. We have to work our way out of this ourselves because it's the only way we ascend spiritually. If we don't, we're stuck here forever. Here's an interesting point. And I saw this on X about a month ago, and I think I probably reposted it. This caught me off guard. The amount of people on the planet that actually have a soul is 25%. There's another 25% that are, I can't remember the exact categorization, but another 25% are non-player characters, and then the other 50% are soulless beings. Now, it might be flipped. It might be 25% are soulless beings. Maybe that's what it is. And 50%, the remaining 50, are NPCs, non-player characters. We know what that means in concept, but can you explain that? And is that a reality? Because it'd be like, holy Mary, Mother of God, there's only 25% of us, only about 2 billion of us that actually have souls on this planet.
Right.
The rest of them,
1 in 4. Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah. You guys heard that or seen that? Is that?
Yeah,
You go first.
yeah, that's definitely, I've heard that number. About 80% of the people on this planet are NPCs, for lack of a better term, which is very controversial because there's a lot of different definitions for that. Dolores Cannon calls them the background people, and some people claim that they don't have a soul at all. In my opinion, because I've kind of went down this rabbit hole just to see, and it's very interesting to me. And we've done some research. We did a whole webinar on clones and the whole origins of human cloning in particular. And it's all real. I mean, Clonaid is a real website. They have 2 facilities. One's in Canada, one's in the Bahamas. They can't legally clone somebody in the United States, so they have to have these offshore facilities. And Michael Jackson was involved, and you can go pay them $50,000 and clone your pet. The movie 6th Day talks about that stuff. I mean, that's all. There's a reality to that, right? But these NPCs allegedly, well, the reason I'm bringing that up is because these clones, in our research, they have to have at least a fragment of the soul to animate the avatar, and so they need something. So they have, and we've interviewed somebody that claimed that these cloning facilities have essentially a soul trap system there, and they basically are, a soul remains in, just to give people a visual, like a canister, right? But a fragment of that soul is connected to a clone, and that clone is basically never gonna, it's just gonna go abide by the law, right? It's gonna follow orders. It's gonna be the NPC it needs to be to maintain the matrix. And then there's, the people that you could say the 144,000. There's a number of people on the planet that are fully working on embodying and embodying that soul, right? And bringing those soul fragments home and then coming online and hence the ascension and the great awakening and everything like that. But as far as the NPCs being completely soulless, I don't know if that's the case, but there does seem to be a number of people that just don't seem to care about questioning reality at all. In fact, it's not interesting to them to want to understand things at a deeper level, and that they're literally engineered that way. Now, is that the result? Is that just in their lineage, right? And has that been the case? And it's like monarch mind control, like it's just been, their bloodline has been programmed to not question things, so each offspring is even more embedded in that programming, and they're just never going to wake up. A lot of people think, the whole reset that allegedly happened in the late 1800s with the Cabbage Patch Kids, if you've heard that, and the orphan trains and all that stuff, and we had a record number of insane asylums all throughout the country, all over the world actually, and the theory is that anybody who remembered the past was thrown in the insane asylum and these mental institutions, and then these children were basically farmed, and they call them Cabbage Patch Kids because they were farmed or grown. It was like a breeding program, right? And they're literally born into a world with no parents to tell them to basically, their parents, nobody in their life remembers the past. So they're thrown into the Rockefeller education system. They're programmed with this whole false history and told what to believe in. And then potentially those people ended up being what we now call the NPCs, those bloodlines, right? And then taking it back even further, as far as like these allegedly were made up of 22 different bloodlines, and there's all these genetic experiments and stuff. I've heard it talked about that that's actually what the original purpose of the religions were. Each religion was its own genetic experiment. And in the early days, it was forbidden to marry outside of your religion. And the reason for that was because it would contaminate the experiment. It would contaminate the bloodline, right? So they were testing things out, and they were dividing people based on under the guise of religions and seeing how that works. But then eventually, they can't control everybody, and that, obviously that didn't last forever. That's just a theory, but it's really interesting. If we go back to square one, there's definitely, I mean, these are master geneticists, and we were engineered this way. So if there was a portion of the population at some time where, let's just say, a chromosome was removed from that strand of DNA in that individual or in this group study, uh, who knows potentially down the line what those people would evolve into, and maybe that they become the NPCs that you're talking about. So I mean, there's Aaron. You could probably add a lot more to that, but it's just an interesting thing to me to even think that that's possible, because you don't want to believe like there's no hope for these people. And I don't know if maybe they can come back online and retrieve the rest of their soul at some point. But what keeps them at odds with themselves all the times is their soul is constantly trying to enter a body that's being cut off from allowing that to happen, and it creates anger. It creates these emotional imbalances in these people, and whenever you don't have any emotional intelligence, you are easily manipulated. Easily, they can just throw something in front of you they know is going to give you a knee-jerk reaction, and bam, they got you. You fell right into the trap. Now you're giving them their energy, and they're loosh harvesting off of you. So I mean, it's very deep. But Aaron, if you feel like adding to that.
Yeah, I mean, in my opinion, that connects to a bit of a larger topic where, so the soul is the real you, right? This body is not really you. This is just an experience the real you is having. This is an avatar that the real you is able to incarnate in to this plane and have this experience, right? For a temporary amount of time. So the soul is outside of time and space. So in my opinion, let's just think of your soul as a big ball of conscious energy, right? And you're simultaneous, since it's outside of time, there is no time where it exists. You're simultaneously incarnated in all these different bodies and all these different avatars and having all these different experiences simultaneously. That's the real you, having all these different experiences. So it's very possible that, the same soul could be, it's incarnating in one of these NPC bodies, like Tyler said, but only it's like they have this technology that it only partially is able just enough to animate the body, but not enough to really have a very high level of consciousness. And it's just kind of like this drone that's in reaction mode all the time and easily programmed, right? And doesn't really isn't really able to break out of the programming, or it's very, very hard to, at least. But that same soul could be incarnated in so many different other things, and everything's quantumly entangled, right? So that means that's all affecting that as well. So it's almost like they can control things to a certain degree, but they're not God. They can only do so much, and they have to work within the rules, and they can manipulate. But at the end of the day, it's almost like there's only so much they can do. They can only do it for so long. It's only going to work so well. And so they do that because they need as many foot soldiers for the Matrix as possible, right? It makes sense they would do something like that, so that they can keep the Matrix. Those people are kind of like the Agent Smiths, let's say, of the Matrix, that always go along with the programming, always try to influence everyone else to stay in line, try to create the whatever is considered normal, right? You have to have a sense of there is no such thing as normal. Things become normalized. So the Matrix that we know, that we live within, it's not normal. It's just become normalized. We think of things. Oh, you work 9 to 5 and you pay your taxes and you do all these things. That's normal. No, it's not. That's just what we've been programmed to believe is normal.
Yeah.
You need all these people to stay in that box. Don't ever think anything to even break out of that, or keep pressuring everyone around you to stay in that box, right? And and keep everyone watching the news and watching what celebrities do and say and believing, that's the most important thing in sports and blah, blah, blah. So it makes sense, right? But now the problem is there's so many fully embodied souls that are coming online. They can't contain it anymore. It's just bursting at the seams, right? And
Boiling over.
it's boiling over, right? And they're freaking out, and they're like, "Oh my God, we're losing control. Our whole system we have set up is crumbling, and we don't have stuff locked down. We got to do something, So that's why there's so much chaos right now. And you like I heard someone say once, I loved this simple line. He said, "You can't kill consciousness, right? The real you is just consciousness."
I like that.
And God is consciousness, and there's no separation there. And you can't kill consciousness. They can kill your body, they can do all these manipulations, but at the end of the day, they can't kill consciousness. And that's why it's game over no matter what. That's why the inevitable raising of consciousness is their demise, and is inevitably leading to whatever that consciousness wants to create, which is going to be something that we want to create, not something that we don't want, right? So we're coming out of this old control system that we've unconsciously created, and we're realizing, oh crap, I unconsciously created this really horrific or negative kind of control system. Now I'm going to take my power back and create something that serves me and serves the ones I love, and doesn't allow this nonsense to keep happening, right?
Yep.
And there's this big push to keep us back in that box, to keep us in fear, to keep us in hatred of each other, and all this kind of stuff, because those are all low vibrations that you basically are consenting now to what they want, and you're now on their frequency, and now they can control you and manipulate you. When you get to the frequency of love, they can't touch you anymore, right? Because now you're above their frequency.
Right.
So it's, at the end of the day, that's what it's all about, and that's what's happening. And I think these ETs, these benevolent ETs, they're the same as us. I mean, we can't put them on pedestals, right? And they want us to know that, and I think disclosure has to happen in a certain specific way so that we don't get too much too soon, the fire hose too much too soon, right?
Mm-hmm.
That we can handle it, like you said earlier, Scott. And but at the same time, it can't happen so slow that all this nonsense just keeps being allowed to happen, because that can't happen, right? And we're the ones saying no now. We're the ones taking a stand, not giving our power away to somebody else to do it for us. And that's what I see happening. I think it's going to speed up. I think the next 3 or 4 years, I think so much is going to happen that it's going to blow all of our minds. And I think the technologies, the med beds, all the free energy tech is going to start being able to be rolled out, because now the cabal is no longer in control to the degree that they're going to just weaponize it, like they've been weaponizing against us. It's now safe to be rolled out in a mass way. I think ETs are going to start making open contact, because it's now safe to do that, where people aren't going to flip out or it's going to be used against us. And I think this planet's going to be unrecognizable in the next, 10 years, within the next 10 years, in my opinion.
I think in a very, very exciting way, because, again, part of the enslavement control mechanism, and I keep bringing it back to religion, I keep bringing it back, we've had spirituality and a spiritual aspect of our lives stripped from us, and supplanted religion, dogmatic religion, in there. And I've just seen, like, I went through this. I went through it myself, born again Christian at 14, studied the Bible, divinity, different religions, 20 years. My soul was never settled, ever. I was always waiting for the hammer to drop, the anvil to drop, God's going to punish you and all this stuff. And man, I'd had enough of that. 1999, it went overboard. I mean, literally, I flipped off God. I said, "F you. I'm done with this bullshit. Drop the handle. I don't care. I'm done. I'm done living like this." Man, did I feel free. If I,
Oh,
and the great thing is, quantum physics became my understanding of Christ's consciousness and message. And I eventually came full circle the whole way back home. It took the secret space programs to bring me here, really brought me back home to a clear divine connection with my creator, which can't be severed. I've never felt this kind of peace in my life. And that happened about 2017 when I had my call to come to Jesus moment one evening. And it was so amazing to me that I knew what it was when it was happening. I'm demanding, I need to know. Wake up in the middle of the night, and I've told the audience this many times. I'll just refrain from it. But ever since that time, puzzle pieces have been coming to me. We're talking now. We're literally 8-9 years into this, and my conviction is just immovable. It's bulletproof. That's why I've said things on these big stages, challenging religion in big church stages, and I haven't had pushback. There's one speaker that was on the Reawaken America tour that has this dark medieval Vatican scary message and all that bullshit. And I'm okay. I'll say that now. I never have any comment on it, but I was attacked. I come off the stage, and this person told the people backstage. I found out from somebody else. Said this person who's a known figure, quote, calls himself a prophet. They think they're a prophet, and the prophecy is always how dark and medieval, what's coming at us is. And I never have any comment, but I was told that, yeah, this person backstage before they come on, when you were on stage, said they had to cleanse the stage of demons after I left. And I thought, isn't that interesting? I'm like, maybe the truth is your message doesn't resonate at all. And you see me at so many events, you're pissed because when I talk about the Christ consciousness and everything else, it resonates with the audience. And it's not, believe me, it isn't my study of divinity, or it's not I didn't go to seminary. It's what comes through my soul and forces me to put it out through my mouth. It's why I'm here. I've discovered, but I've watched the audience respond. I've watched pastors respond, and it's positive. It's never negative that I can think of. It's always, they come up to me many times.
yeah.
And so the point is that that's why I work so hard to break it in people's mind, because it kept me a prisoner. It kept me enslaved. It kept me from breaking out and becoming what my soul, in my opinion, is its expression, the only reason I'm here. That's it. Nobody can convince me otherwise. That's why I push so hard on it. But when I learned through secret space programs, part of our genetic programming is they program us genetically to have a desire and need to worship
Yeah.
something else, someone else outside of us, which means what? You're giving your power away, and you're not becoming. You're not ascending. You're waiting for somebody else to come in and do the work for you and make a heavenly existence for you. And I just remember very starkly the first time I became friends with Pastor Bob Joyce and his wife. Incredible people, and had a number of lunches with them, and the very first time I sat in his church, it was off to the side up front, and he's making his statement. He says, "God is within you. Look down at me. You got to go inside. God resides inside of you. That's where you find God." And the message to me was, wait a minute, isn't God up in heaven? Oh, so he's inside of me, right? And it was just kind of it stuck with me ever since that time. Somebody else made a comment to me about it. They were talking directly to you. He was talking directly to you, Scott, because you say in your channel all the time, this is where God resides. You got to go inside. Stop looking up, stop looking out. Go inside. He said it directly to your eyes because you say that to your eyes. I'm like, I don't believe that. There's nothing that special about me that somebody would. It was coincidental, in my opinion. But I thought, well, even if it's coincidental, there's the message.
Mm-hmm.
The kingdom. The statement has been, the kingdom of heaven is within. And I've said many times, heaven or hell is exactly where you stand. What are you making your existence? Are you making it heavenly? Or are you making it hell? You are doing that, right?
Yeah.
My thought process on that, anyways.
100%.
Right.
Yeah. Luke 17:20-21. He says it. So it's Let's see. When the kingdom of God shall come, he answered them and said, the kingdom of God comes not with observation, neither shall they say, look here or look there, for behold, the kingdom of God is within you. It's within you.
Within
Right.
you.
That's what Jesus Yeshua actually taught. He said, stop looking outside of you for God or the Savior or any of this stuff. He's like, it's within you. And he's saying, do you not know you're the same as me? Do you not know you're God's? The kingdom of heaven is within you. And then the misunderstanding of but then he says, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me. That's not actually what he said. When you look at the original text and the original meaning, and you have to really dig in to really figure out what's actually being said, not what's being told to you is what's being said. What he was actually saying there is, I am the way, I am the truth. What is I am? I am is God, which is everything, which is within you. Right? So again, it's saying the same thing there. He's not saying, I am on this pedestal and I'm the way, the truth, and the life, and you have to make me your savior. That's not actually what he was saying. What he was saying is, the same I am that's within me is within you, and that's the way, the truth, and the life. And that's what he actually taught.
Tyler, I don't even have a problem when people talk that way. I grew up that way. Just again, it's what we're taught. We're programmed. I don't look down on anybody that still says that. And I don't have any opposition, violent or passive or anything. I'm just like, I'm really glad that they're searching. I'm really glad that they want to have a belief system that is benevolent. It's Christ-like. It is of God, of creator, of source. I don't look at them and look down and say, you're such a programmed idiot. I'm just thinking, I'm really glad you want to be that kind of a person. That's all. That's what I think. Even if it's wrong, I mean, hey, I've said many times, if I'm wrong about all this, I'm going to be sentenced to lake of fire. Christ's going to turn his back on me. If he does land here on the earth and sees me, I'm gonna behave like anybody else. I'm gonna fall to my knees, bawling my eyes out, begging forgiveness. I don't think I need to beg any forgiveness because I was a result of the Matrix, or my current thinking, a result of something else. I'm vested in the truth. That's it. I don't care what the truth is. I really don't. I just
Right.
want to know what it is. All I can say is my truth has been coming through my soul for quite some time. And it just stuff comes out of me. And I think to myself, talking to you guys, we're about ETs. And here I am dragging this back onto the front porch, right? This subject matter. But it's like I can't stop. I got to keep getting it in there because it's all tied together. And
Hmm.
I have like J.D. Vance coming out and saying that, ETs are demons. What the
Yeah,
hell are you talking about? Like, that doesn't help the cause of the mission. Why does J.D. Vance come out and say ETs are demons? Well, maybe some of the demons are non-terrestrials, demonic energy, but they're not, all non-terrestrials aren't demons. Otherwise, we'd
Right.
have been wiped out by now. We'd have been gone by now. Quite
we
honestly,
wouldn't be here right now.
we wouldn't be here by now if they were demons. They have that much power.
Right.
Right. Yeah.
But there are
And
negative ones that you could say are demonic. They are are service to self in the law of one terms. Benevolent ones you could say are more service to others oriented, and the negative are more service to self, which
Mhm.
serves to self in the way of, I'm going to do what I want to do, no matter what, no matter who it harms, and oppresses, right? And that's kind of how the negative operate. And you could say our concept of what a demon is, I think a lot of it comes from these reptilian or these negative ETs, and even how they look. A lot of them look very demonic.
oh, we
And
lost.
oh,
Yeah.
oh there you go. And but again, though, they're just a being. It's not like they're again, that's we gotta understand that the whole framework we've been taught is not accurate. Right? And like you said earlier, almost everything we've been taught is a lie. So you really gotta just go back to square one and be like, okay, most of what I've been taught is a lie, or very distorted at the least, and I gotta figure out now what's really going on here on my own. And that's the journey to truth. That's the sovereign journey that we all need to take, rather than oh, I need to just jump in a box that's the correct box, is what so many people do, right? And they leave one religion, they jump right into another, or they jump into atheism, which is a religion. It is. Um, and they go, oh, now I have the correct box. And it's like, well, no, you didn't actually wake up to anything. You just jumped right into another box. And now you're thinking that box is going to save you. So you need to get out of all boxes. You need to be a sovereign being. This is what Christ, Jesus, Yeshua, whatever you want to call him, actually taught. He said, stop subscribing to any of these boxes. Stop subscribing to anything that someone's trying to sell you. He's like, look within. Go within and go on your own journey. And that there is where you're going to find God. That's where you're going to find the truth. And you will. If you seek, you will find, right? When you seek, you will find.
That's why, the Q operation was very direct on this a number of times. Learn to think for yourself. Trust yourself. If you believe you're truly connected to your creator, why would you have doubt? Why would you mistrust thoughts that you have on this level? And I know for certain, I mean, my soul is just, it is what it is, and it wants nothing but good and light for everybody, like everybody. And so I don't have that a consciousness of negativity or consciousness. Now, I certainly want bad people or pedos. I want them carved up like a Thanksgiving turkey. Don't get me wrong. I can jump off the Ascension Reservation anytime for that. No problem. I'll do horrible battle on stuff like that. But it's been such a peace. Like I said, that you've landed in the right place when you have pure peace in your soul, not questioning. I don't question what the thoughts that come in. I don't run from that. I'm like, wow, that's like a downloaded lesson of truth that comes from spirit, from my creator. And that's why I'm so comfortable with it and willing to put myself out there and say what I say, pissing off a lot of my Christian brothers and sisters, and some do, but a whole lot less than I thought. Jumping back to the ET space, I want to make sure when I look back here at what Tyler and I talked about here early on. We talked about the bloodlines. People that are non-terrestrials that actually walk among us, and we don't. Many of us have probably had this experience, like so many, but we don't know because we can't identify that they're a non-terrestrial. Yes, they look like us in many ways. Look at the whole reason why they used space-based weapons to burn out Paradise, California.
Right.
Because number one, obviously they want to land, but also I can't think of the non-terrestrial community that lives there, and they have homes and whatever, but they've got systems underground. They have special dentists there, a special dentist in that community, that town, because this, and I forget the name of them, but this
Centaurians.
Yeah. They have two rows of teeth, right? So when you're going to go to a dentist, you basically need a Centaurian dentist there, just like
very specialized.
Pardon me?
A very specialized type of dentist.
Yeah, imagine a dentist having one of these Centaurians walk in and open up your mouth. You got two rows of teeth. Like what? Yeah, they'd be going crazy.
Yeah. But there's actually disclosure of that in the movie Coneheads, which is a slapstick comedy from Saturday Night Live about ETs living amongst us. But in the movie, they have multiple rows of teeth, and they become dentists so they can change their teeth to fit in amongst the people.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's in the movies like that. It always is a joke, but I do believe that they've potentially been walking among us the entire time, and a lot of the ETs, they throw these 4 races out there that are being recognized as legitimate now. You have the reptilians, which we talked about, the insectoids, which is depicted in petroglyphs all over the world, these ant people and these arachnids, like you said, and mantis beings. But then you also have the Greys, which Hollywood's and everybody. But then the Nordics, which is the ones that look like us, and that's the one I think people need to pay attention to, because wait a minute, if you didn't tell me that was an ET, I wouldn't know that that's not a human. And that's where I think we have to understand that, and potentially, in my opinion, if once the collective is primed, the ETs are real. I think they're eventually going to roll out. They're going to introduce an extraterrestrial that might be a Nordic that looks exactly like, let's just say, Ivanka Trump, or somebody, we wouldn't know the difference unless we were told. And there's, if you want to get into like the Venusians, which if you go back through any testimony about the Venusians visiting people, Valiant Thor, Stranger at the Pentagon, George Van Tassel, he was given blueprints to build the Integratron in Joshua Tree, California, from the Venusians. And the way they're described is a human as tall as we are, with dark hair and a decent tan, and you would never know that they weren't from another planet. And according to them, they were actually originally inhabitants of Earth that were forced off planet by these cabal forces, eons ago. And the reason that they look so human is because they literally originated here with us. And it's just a faction that took refuge on another planet when this planet was taken over. That's all controversial stuff, but I read a lot of books, and there's some interesting information surfacing now. But the whole point of it is that some of these ETs we might be watching them on TV every day. Like we talk about the reptilian shapeshifters and stuff, and there's been so many glitches and anomalies in television, on the mainstream media, where we see people's eyes turn into slits, or it actually glitches out and you start to see this, like the holographic overlay kind of fizzle out, and you see something else beneath it that's not human. And they have technology, they call it liquid crystal technology, which essentially tricks us. It deceives our visual cortex, and we see a human, but it's not a human, and it's very sophisticated technology. And once that breaks down, like the movie They Live, if you've seen that movie, he puts the glasses on, he sees the weird people, which, by the way, in the book They Live, in the original book, they were depicted as reptilians, but when they turned it into a movie, they changed it from reptilians to whatever it is in the movie, because I think it was too close to the truth, right?
Right. It's a miracle that movie even got released the way it was. Even. Right.
But when he destroys the tower at the end of the movie, the tower that's maintaining the signal that keeps everybody under that illusion seeing humans, when he destroys that tower, then everything's exposed. So in my opinion, there's some truth there, and that's probably one of the real reasons for all the 5G towers and the technology within them, because you could travel around the world and go to areas of the world that don't have any cell towers, and your phone will still work, because they're connecting to the satellites. And it's like, well, wait, there's not a 5G tower anywhere near me for miles, and how does my phone work? So they call them Gwen towers. They're weaponized towers that are emitting extremely low frequencies that maintain the illusion. And I think if we wiped out those towers, we might see something completely different. But on the other side of that coin, some of the people within the Trump administration that we see on camera, on TV every day, they might be a Pleiadian or a Nordic, and they look human. What's the difference? Maybe their eyes are slightly bigger, maybe their ears are connected. Maybe they have a YouTube channel called Patriot Street Fighter, and
Right.
You outed me in front of the whole world.
yeah.
How could you do that?
But anyway, what my whole point is, we could be seeing them every day, and then one day they'll be like, oh, well, guess what? Here they are. They've been here the whole time. And what's interesting is the aliens.gov website. Well, the Department of War one really is showing declassified UFO files, right, and footage. But the White House, aliens.gov, depicts illegal immigrants, and it was kind of like this rug pull. Everyone was kind of pissed off about that, because here we are hoping for alien disclosure, and they create this whole thing that looks like it's about to. It's like this bait and switch. We think we're going to get, oh, here's real disclosure. Finally, they're literally saying they live among us. They've walked among us for 70 years. They've been in the classrooms and the grocery stores, blah, blah, blah. But then you get to the end of it, and they're not talking about the little green men. They're talking about the illegal immigrants. So, but
You know what, Tyler? They're probably trying to create a fever pitch, a drum beat, us demanding, like the Epstein files, a complete setup to get people demanding, give it energy. Probably exactly same strategy. I bet that's why they laid it out like that.
They're priming in the ways they think they're able to do that,
Right.
and I get it, but it's as frustrating as it is. I mean, I mean, when I went to that, when I saw the, it's like they live among, it's like it was so melodramatic. I was like, okay, what is the angle here? And then, sure enough, they're like, it's illegal aliens,
Right. But
But
there's a
I'm
double
like,
meaning.
okay, as
Yeah.
frustrating as that was, I get it. I know they're trying to they're doing this for a reason, right? They're not. I don't think they're doing this to mock us because this is coming from the white hats, not the negatives, in my opinion. They're like, what? How can we keep pushing this that will get in the subconscious, get people used to this as much as possible, with the least amount of pushback right now, and they're priming us. I think that's
Well,
what that was.
yeah, in my opinion too, though, everything you read on that website when they released it that day, that could all be 100% true about ET life, real ET life as well. It's
Right,
like a double. Everything they do has a double meaning too, right? So
right. For those with eyes to see, kind of thing. Right.
yeah, and then but I saw people get mad because they're like, man, now people are definitely aren't going to take disclosure serious if you're going to make a joke out of it. But nevertheless, it's getting more and more people amped up about it. They're
Yep.
talking about it now, like we've been beating a dead horse, saying it's up to us now to
Right.
really step forward and use our voices, and we've been screaming into the wind for so long, but now we're getting somewhere. Now we're making headway. Aaron just went to Contact in the Desert, which was
Mhm.
apparently the biggest it's ever been, and a lot of people were
Yeah.
drawn there
Wow.
because
Really?
Yeah.
yeah,
Highest attendance ever, and it's been going since 2013. So
Wow.
people are excited. People are seeking these conferences out. They're seeking this information out because so many people are taking this stuff seriously now, and they're realizing, wait a second, this is real, and I want to find out more about this. And yeah, there was, I think, over 5,000 people there.
yeah,
Man, I'll tell you what, there was a disclosure fest on the north side of LA in a park outdoors, big
Yeah,
tents and
Disclosure
whatever.
Fest. Oh yeah,
Yeah, that was like 2018. I went to that,
never got to
and
go, but I wanted to. Yeah.
it was pretty cool. It was again a lot of outdoor tents and whatnot. And I met that day. I met David Wilcock for the second time. Tried to meet Corey Good. He wanted nothing to do with me. Emery was awesome, and Emery Smith was great. Jimmy was there. Jimmy Black, right?
Jimmy
Church.
Church,
Jimmy
Jimmy
Church.
Church.
Yes, Jimmy
Jimmy
Black.
Church,
Yeah,
fade to
Jimmy
black.
Church
to
was there.
him. I just
It,
talked to him at Contact actually.
it's
Yeah, he
Yeah,
cool,
he's awesome.
quite
yeah,
a guy.
He's
Obviously,
a character. Yeah.
yeah.
he's
So
yes, he is.
Jimmy Church, fade to black. That's why he said
Fade
that.
to
That's
Black.
the
Oh,
That's
yeah,
Fade
right.
to Black.
yeah.
That's
That's
right. Fade to
Yeah,
Black. Jimmy Church's show, Fade to Black.
right.
But if I'm not mistaken, I think, and correct me if I'm maybe way off, but I think there were 15,000 people there that day in total. It was a
Oh
huge
yeah,
outdoor park, North LA, huge
massive.
outdoor park. Yeah, and it was pretty fascinating to see that many people that were, and we're talking 8 years ago that dialed
Yeah.
in. But now that you're telling me Contact in a desert is even way bigger, that's pretty encouraging. What's interesting, you mentioned, Tyler, once belief in aliens reaches critical mass, you said they could enter our reality permanently. And you also mentioned the Venusians. I'm wondering, is that the race? Because what I've learned is that when that time comes where we're making that transcendental leap, they're waiting for us to basically kick the reptilian, the Dracos, ourselves off this planet and taking it back, and and when it comes into the kind of full blown capacity, the consciousness of humanity is now reconciling the fact that yes, there are many millions of ET races, stars, systems, planets. I mean, even NASA's talking about, yeah, potentially 35 billion planets like ours and inhabiting humanoid type of life. They're coming out with this stuff now.
Right.
But that one race will be here in particular. And it was dark skin, sort of more rounded skull, darker skin, like a really nice tan, dark hair, look Peruvian maybe, that race will be here to help us make our leap and adjust and learn all these things we never got to learn because they had to go through it themselves. They had to kick this Draco species in a war off of their planet. Now that's happening here too. That war is covert. It's under the radar. All these capacities, they've been fighting this war overtly, military and otherwise, economic, banking, you name it. but they'll be here to help us rise ascension wise as they went through, and they can be able to educate us in many ways how the universe, God's universe, source's universe, metaverse, whatever really works, which would be very exciting. Are these the same type of things you guys have learned? Is there truth to that?
I believe so. I think all the above, And that quote you said, once belief in aliens reaches critical mass, they could enter our reality permanently. That actually comes from Whitley Strieber, and I just think that's absolutely the case. It's like the 100th monkey effect. In fact, I think the same goes for things like Bigfoot too. Like you can't go anywhere now in the world without seeing a Bigfoot sign, memorabilia, souvenirs, whatever, and just hundreds and hundreds of sightings. Well, enough people are believing in the possibility of Bigfoot that it's allowing something like that to enter into our reality, and it becomes part of this consensus reality where enough people believe in it, it becomes true, right? So if our collective consciousness literally creates a space that allows for these extraterrestrials to walk among us, but enough people have to believe in that, otherwise there'll be dissonance, right? And it won't work. So they're here walking among us already, but they have to stay hidden in various ways. And we've interviewed a lot of people that claim that they have their own cities underground. Africa apparently is one place where they have a lot of extraterrestrials come to reside on our planet in Africa underground, and then even here in the United States, other Australia. But if that's the case, they already have property. They already have space here. They already have cities here underground. And it's just a matter of time before they can actually surface and walk among us. And it's really up to this war that's happening right now. And, like Aaron laid out beautifully, they're desperately holding on right now because it's everything they've ever worked for their entire existence, generations, thousands of years. They've built this control system. And now it's literally, the machine is starting to consume itself, and they're trying to figure out ways to plug the holes, but it's just gonna keep springing new leaks until it needs to be replaced, and it's gonna be replaced with the golden age. That it's gonna be quite literally, and I mean this as literal as possible, there's gonna be a frequency so high they can't even exist here anymore. And they'll have to go back to the Orion system or wherever they came from and try that game somewhere else, or whatever karma has in store for them, because ultimately they're trying to escape karma by, you know, extending their lives and staying young forever. And that's what you could get into the secret societies, which
transhumanist agenda,
yeah,
machines and all that.
Yeah.
but even JD Vance saying that aliens are demons. Well, JD Vance comes from the Skull and Crossbones Club, and there's a whole messy history with that guy. So he might still have an agenda, or just even an ingrained belief that he's programmed with. So you got, like you said, you can't really get angry at people because they're falling for this stuff, because it's all engineered that way, and people are just born into this program, and it's not necessarily their fault. And we had to learn to be nice to some of these people as we all start breaking programming, because people are going to start glitching out. We're seeing a byproduct of generations of mind control, breaking down before our eyes.
I don't even believe that's the real JD Vance, because quite honestly, the guy is 5'8", but you see him at the inauguration. He's as tall as Donald Trump is. Well, and that's not even real Trump. I don't believe it was there either, because he didn't look 6'3". But how's JD Vance at 5'8", as tall as Trump? Number one. Number two, you're right. He's a skull and bones guy. Number three, the perfect eyelid. There's just the darker eyes. That doesn't no wrinkles whatsoever. I'm like, that's a mask to me. That is not real. So if that isn't the real JD Vance, they're using him, utilizing him. His maybe they removed him, the real one, because he was one of those guys. I don't know. But there are certainly questions to ask. And I always get 2 points going at one time. I can't remember the other one I wanted to come back to. But it certainly has to do with these non-terrestrials. They got to be removed from the planet. Like you said, they won't be able to. They won't. If my belief is the collective consciousness of the planet skyrockets when this is revealed to humanity, because they now realize we can handle it. And what I've learned is they can't interfere with that. They're not allowed to interfere with our ascension track, and they maintain that. That's why all these quote unquote UFOs we've been seeing for generations, they're not non-terrestrial. Those are man-made. Those are planetary, architecture that they reveal those to us. If I'm not mistaken, the treaties are they are not allowed to show themselves to us because it interferes, at least at that time, with our ascension track. Have you guys heard the same thing? They'll show ourselves when we've ascended high enough to believe what our eyes are showing us. If that does happen, I believe the collective consciousness skyrockets on the planet, and then the frequency, of course, rises massively, and these negative ETs can't survive that frequency, so they bail out. They get the hell out of here. Does that sound about right? Do I have that right?
Yeah, I mean, Aaron, you could take that, but I think, yeah, there's absolutely a portion of that true, but I think there's been individual contactees for quite some time. So I think they show up to people who, individuals who are ready, but to the collective, I would say it's what you just said is true.
Yeah,
Yeah,
kind of
individuals have been having contact since forever,
forever.
and even small groups, you could say. And then there's been, if you researched UFO events, there's so many that happened on a mass scale. Phoenix Lights was in '97, not that long ago. How many thousands of people saw that? The Battle of Los Angeles in '42. How many? There was like 1 million people, or almost that, or 500,000, something like that. I saw that. The Zimbabwe with all the kids. Like, I mean, there's so many even mass sightings that seem to have been done intentionally for a specific reason. And but yeah, individuals have been having contact and been claimed they've been taken on the ships and gone to their planets. And George Van Tassel, George Adamski, back in the '50s, there was this huge UFO wave back then, or called flying saucers back then, where people were having contact left and right and talking about it and saying they're taken on their ships and told all this stuff. And the Integratron, which is still there in Joshua Tree, George Van Tassel, from his ET contacts, they told him how to build that. And if you look at that thing, it's like there's no way he just built that on his own. Like, it is very much an ET type structure. And supposedly he got 90% done with it, and they took him out before he could fully finish it because it was supposed to be this big healing chamber that would have healed all disease and done all these amazing things. That, of course, that's a huge threat. They can't have that. So they took him out. It got 90% done, but now people just do sound baths and meditations and things like that. But there's also a theory that it's also a communication device, or it was supposed to be a communication device that we could communicate to the stars, by being inside of it. In my opinion, that's what a lot of these pyramids we see all over the planet were communication devices on top of healing facilities, on top of energy power plants as well. Multi uses for a lot of these structures. But yeah, so the ETs have been here. They've been here the whole time. Contact's been happening the whole time. Like, what we're waking up to is that the world we thought we lived in and we were told we lived in is not true. We were sold a Truman Show fake reality this whole time. And we're waking up now. We're Truman exiting the fake reality at the end of the movie. And then we're going, oh, wait, this is the real world, not this little bubble, this little fake thing I've been sold. It's been here the whole time. I've been lied to the whole time. And we're going to realize that, hey, there's a bunch of them been walking amongst us, living amongst us, but they look so much like us, like we talked about earlier. We didn't even know. And on top of hybrids as well, on top of us inner Earth civilizations that have been here for many, many thousands of years, if not millions of years. On top of I think a lot of the crafts that we see are them coming here from other places. A lot of those crafts are our own, reverse engineered from ET tech usually as well. And that's going to be disclosed because we're going to be like, oh yeah, and by the way, we've had their technology for like at least 100 years or more. And we've been hiding it from everyone, And we have gas, coal, and oil, and rockets and all this nonsense. We haven't needed that in like 80 years at least, but we've been kind of just using it in the background, not telling anybody, and trying to keep this. Or certain groups have been doing that. And
Right.
all this stuff. It's the Truman Show. We've been living in the Truman
Yeah.
Show, and it's breaking down. It's bursting at the seams right now, and it's all coming out, and we're all starting to wake up to realize, whoa, Reality is so much bigger and greater and so much different than what.
Right.
Well, I can tell you, man, it's going to be so real for me if and when I get my bucket list wish that I meet this smoking hot reptilian chick. I'm gonna be like, oh yeah, it is real now.
That's funny.
You know how they what's crazy that I mean they're not only masters of suppression and hiding the truth, but let's
Mhm.
talk for our last subject matter here for the night, the battle for Los Angeles, 1948. I mean, there's literally artillery war going on with basically is these ET craft off-world spaceships, and it's front page news, and it's Los
Yeah.
Angeles, in LA, newspaper articles. You can go find these former articles, and there I haven't spoken to any, but there are people that were there at the time. There's a battle for Los Angeles going on the coastline, fired at ET craft. They're taking fire and all this kind of stuff. They're just like off the coast, just up there in the air, and our
It,
military is like at
it
doing
woke
war.
up the whole city. It was so loud and lasted so long. People died from heart attacks.
Yeah,
Uh, I
and
mean, it was, and then they tried to say, "Oh, it was war jitters. It was just a balloon, I think, or something that was mistaken for." They had to
they
come up
always
with
come up with a balloon theory. Like,
right.
what level of IQ does this moron have to think that ours is so low? We'll buy. Oh, it's a balloon.
Well,
But
they
And
don't care.
they were firing at this thing for hours, for
yeah,
hours.
Well,
You don't
if you
do
listen,
that unless you are massively threatened by something very, very big, and you know it's something
Mhm.
you don't mistake for that, right?
and if you listen to William Tompkins' testimony of this, which is the most fascinating in my opinion, there
Mhm.
was more than one. There was a whole fleet of craft
There was
that
more than one. There was a fleet.
they
Yeah,
were firing upon. Yeah, people were there was hundreds of witnesses, or
yeah,
however many people, and he
There were
claims
no, there
that
were there were
thousands.
hundreds of thousands of
Yeah,
witnesses.
yeah, but
Hundreds of thousands.
he claims that, and I don't know how he knew this, but he had a lot of insider information. But he claims that essentially the entire town was blank slated, mind wiped of that
wow, that explains it.
That would explain a
of
lot.
that experience. Whether they were showering them with chemicals. I read that in his book. I haven't read his. He has 3 books. I don't
I forgot
remember.
about that. Yeah, I think I did
Yeah,
read it. Yeah.
but he said it, and I don't know all the details off the top of my head. But he does claim that there was an effort to literally mind wipe those people, and that's why they don't remember it.
Wow.
But him, and it didn't take for everybody, obviously, and
But it's in the newspaper. You can see the newspaper.
Yep, I've seen.
Like,
I saw the front page coverage of the newspaper
right,
article, the battle
yeah,
for
you can find
LA.
it online. You can Google
right.
search it right now
But
and find it.
yeah, if you think about their effort in erasing the memory of the collective that witnessed that, they know it's not going to be foolproof. They know people are going to still remember. So if it at least they can control the story, and because people won't be like, well, no, there was 20 craft and I saw this and that, but they know they remember something and they see the article and like it's all trickster energy, right, and manipulation tactic, but. Nevertheless, that was something that's well documented, like you said. There's been a number of well documented cases, actually, that if people would just take any one of them seriously, we wouldn't even be having this debate today.
Yeah, the
Right,
DC flyover in '52, which
right,
was multiple different days, even, and then they tried to say it was temperature inversions that caused the ridiculous. The Phoenix Lights, tens of thousands of people saw that, and then they tried to say it was military flares. That just all those people mistook as a giant crash, like
yeah,
because they have to come up with something, right? So they just like the closest thing they can think that people might buy is usually what they come up with. But it's when you actually study and look into the cases, and then you look at what they say it was, it's always ridiculous. It's
yeah,
always Roswell. Oh, it was a weather balloon. Like, yeah,
right.
no, ridiculous.
Yeah, the devil's in the details.
Right?
You got to read between the lines, and just pay close attention. I just watched a video today. It was 2 military men breaking down Biden's inauguration and how there were so many discrepancies and everything was off. He was sworn
Yeah.
in, 13 minutes too early, which means it was illegitimate to begin with. All the military that were there with him were actually like hired help wearing costumes, and the guys were just pointing out why that was the case. And anyway, it was this grand illusion that this show that they put on, and people buy into that, and it's just how they trick us. And then he said in the video, he's like, the devil's in the details. If you know what you're looking for, you see the truth. You see the truth. And this is, it kind of brings me to something I wanted to mention, was the missing scientist all of a sudden that we see happening right now. I think, for one, that if that has psyop written all over it, because these people have been going missing the entire time, but now for some reason they want us to know about it. And whether that's a white hat effort or not, it's apparent to me that it doesn't become a 4 a.m. talking point unless they want us to know about it. Otherwise, they would never let that hit the news. They would never let that hit the news because that's been their MO the entire time, wiping people out. And if you really follow, there is a connection between all these scientists, including Wright Patterson. A lot of them, a few of them worked for Wright Patterson, and that's if anyone's familiar with any UFO lore, that's a very popular Air Force base where a lot of the reverse engineering happened. But then the one thing that stood out to me the most is one of the female scientists who lost her life was talking about, she was blowing the whistle on what she called a shape-shifting memory retaining alloy. Shape-shifting memory retaining alloy that could literally change shapes in midair. And I've heard Emery Smith talk about this a few times, craft that they literally just morph in front of you. And when people film UFOs, they're always changing shapes. Now, the rhyme or reason behind this, we can only speculate, but this is the type of stuff that is being leaked out with the story of the missing scientist. So in a sense, it is a form of disclosure, because now people are taking it more seriously, because wait, why are they trying to silence these people? What's a shape-shifting memory retaining alloy? It's just getting people to ask more questions. So it could be, yeah, maybe people are losing their lives, maybe people are going missing for real, and there is like a deep state effort, but it's also at the same time, the dark always serves the light, and it's really only aiding in the bigger picture of this disclosure and people asking more questions. So, yeah, I mean, there's evidence everywhere if you know where to look.
Yeah, yeah. And I think it's just going to be the most exciting thing in our life is going to be that. I can't imagine anything giving us a soul shift in an upward direction than whatever that looks like. It's got to be a televised sort of happening, kind of like that one that they showed Trump walking with a tall gray that was obviously under their control. But when it comes to benevolence, I don't know how you do it. You're not going to do a White House press announcement with Trump or whatever. I just don't know how that looks. But whatever it is, I think it's just going to be. I think we're going to be grabbing a table and like they
Right.
actually they're doing it right, and and I think that separates a wheat from the chaff. The people who have an ascended consciousness up in the higher end of the third density, I think they'll be like, "Oh my God, finally it's here." And those who would be naysayers, it's bullshit, whatever. I think that's a lower vibration, lower consciousness. Not that that's good or bad, right or wrong. It's just where their evolution is in their spiritual journey at that time, and they won't be able to make that leap. They won't be able to make the connection. They will be disbelieve, and they'll be recycled into the next incarnation and back to the same density level to hopefully learn and grow through that one. We've been through many levels, densities, or many experiences in these densities, on our journey upward. um,
Yep.
and some take many. I'm a hard-headed guy. I'm sure I've taken 25,000 of these incarnations to get it right in many ways. Uh, but there again, it's kind of like, I don't care what it is, just tell me what it is, and then we'll go from there. I just think that this is going to be the greatest revelation of the human soul is the out in the open acknowledgement and acquiescence to the reality that yes, there is unbelievably advanced intelligent life far beyond us with far greater capabilities who still have this enamored thing about us, about the human species. because of what we are to them, how amazing and even more powerful, if we can unleash ourselves from this matrix prison to do the great things that we're going to be able to do. I think it's just going to be. I think everything in front of us is very exciting. I'm just
Right.
looking for that ignition point when that comes, and maybe 2027 is that year, because I've heard that before, like 5, 6, 8 years ago. 2027 comes up in the scope of all this, but. Anyways, guys, we could do this for hours and hours. That's why you're coming back. That's why you're coming back next month. And I'm not asking. I'm just. we're doing this. We're doing
good.
this. We're doing this again. The three of us next month. I'm going to be getting you guys separately. We talked about that. I'm going to do that as well. But we're going to, a month from now, roughly, I'll reach out to you guys and see what date we can all come together and just continue our journey to the truth here on Patriot Street Fighter and learning all the stuff that you guys know. But
Yeah.
once again, it's truly an honor and pleasure to get to know you guys and work with you. Before I let you guys go, too, also, folks, Chris wanted me to throw this out. We forgot to put it out. There is a website, and this is for those who, it's called rememberthealamomovie.com. And I think this is where, let me see what Chris said about that. Maybe it's where you can. Let me see. I've got to tell you, the film opens across America on July the 4th. People can pre-order the movie now, and they'll get half off if you pre-order the movie now at rememberthealamomovie.com. And let me see if the link actually works. Earlier, it didn't seem. Yeah, it works now. rememberthealamomovie.com. You can pre-order the movie to watch it online for half price right now. I'd recommend you do that, but definitely something you're going to want to support
Right.
big time. But gentlemen, journeytothetruthonline.com. You can see that stuff down in the description box. Pleasure to hang out with you guys and learn more. This is fun back and forth.
Yeah.
Getting my education in with yours and figuring out what's real, where we land.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah.
And one last thing I would love to say before we wrap up, our documentary that we talked about the first time, A Lifetime of Silence,
Yes.
behind the green door. It's available for $9.99 on our Patreon, which you can find through our website. But what I want to ask people to do, if they did purchase it last time, if they did watch it and they enjoyed it, we didn't realize that, in order to get this picked up on the larger streaming platforms, you have to have a good rating on IMDb. So if people go to imdb.com and just type in IMDb A Lifetime of Silence, it should pull it up. If they would love to go there and rate the film, just give it a, you rate it 1 through 10, give it a star, and leave a review if you feel compelled to, if you enjoyed the film. It would really help us get it out there further. So if you would do that, we would truly appreciate it.
And that is, just run a search on search engine, IMDb, and then the title, right?
Yeah, IMDb. Yeah, IMDb, A Lifetime of Silence is all you have to type in, and it literally will come up as the top 3 results.
Or if you just go to imdb.com and then search A Lifetime of Silence on their search as well.
Yeah.
It'll come up
Yeah.
first.
And you'll see a spot on there to rate it. There'll be a little star and stuff. So that would help us, and we would appreciate that.
So let's do that even just tonight, folks. You're listening. Just I'm going to do it when we finish the show. I'll go in and do that myself, give that rating, because again, it takes work to get these things done, and money, by the way. And so this is how we support getting the truth out. Look, you pay a cable bill, ridiculous bullshit cable bill, DirecTV, all this bullshit for $180 a month for 500 channels you'll never click on, that they shove down your throat with a freaking toilet plunger, shit you don't even want. And they force you to pay all this money to get the few things you do want. That just drives me nuts. So that's why you pay for those things. Pay for things where it really counts, because it's really helping humanity. I appreciate it if you do that. Guys, we'll be back here again in a month. I'll reach out to you offline, and we'll just keep this going, since it seems to be the topic of conversation. It is, bringing the truth of extraterrestrial interaction to the forefront of the conversation here on Earth, and shutting down Sharia bullshit, kicking them out. Go to the countries. If you want to live in a country where they stone a woman who gets raped to death for the honor of the father, good. If I have some money, I'll buy a plane ticket. You just email me, patriotstreetfighter.com. I'll put your burqa ass on a plane and ship you off myself. Not a problem.
Yeah. No ideological takeovers.
Nope.
None of that. None of
We're,
that.
we're getting
Right.
back to the original republic, and that's what's going to get force fed down their throat. And it won't be a
Yep.
plunger; it'll be a howitzer. So, anyways, gentlemen and ladies and gentlemen, for being here tonight. Thanks for being here tonight. Again, Tyler Koala and Aaron Kuhn, Journey to the Truth. And we're going to go at it some more. So thanks for being here, fellas and ladies and gentlemen. For tonight, that's a wrap.